Happy Friday and welcome to another edition of Research Fantasy presents our MLB DFS pitcher picks for this June 9th, 2017. All I could say about yesterday is the equation came down to cash game, yay, tournament games, ugh. Not a good night again in tournaments. That's why I always encourage you to hedge your tournament play with cash game play. No, it's not going to be a 100% success rate, but if you're able to cash 60% of the time when you're not hitting your tournaments, let me rephrase that. If you're able to hit cash games 65 to 70% of the time, and you have an off night with tournament play, probably a good chance that you're going to minimize your losses or maybe even out completely. And that's the way I do it. Whatever I play in tournaments, I kind of stack up my cash games to make sure that as long as I hit with cash, that it will be a break-even endeavor for me. And whatever up, I think yesterday was up just an ever so small amount. But, you'll take it on nights where you're not hitting in tournaments. Always good to have some cash game relief there. Pretty solid slate in terms of what we have in front of us. I believe 14 games. Not a lot to love. When you see something like Matt Harvey as being one of the potential top pitching options, at least on FanDuel, kind of makes you a little bit sick to your stomach. I think we can navigate around that a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to list out some guys that I don't really have too much of an issue playing. Let's get things started. I'll mention Eric Skoglund. I mean, he's very cheap on both sites, and he's a lefty going up against the San Diego Padres. The Padres, quote-unquote, hit lefties better, but the numbers aren't really there to back them up as being any kind of legitimate threat. But you have to remember, they are a professional baseball team. These guys can hit. It's not going to be shocking if Will Myers, who, even if he doesn't get mentioned in the next video, will be a top tournament option of mine. But at the same time, this team could score one run, get struck out 12 times, and Skoglund will be there as a bottom-priced, low-end option that comes through for a lot of people, and he should have popularity. He has one very good game. Then he got steamrolled by Cleveland, which is no shock or surprise. But I'm going to start things off today with Brad Peacock. $7K on FanDuel. I think he's $79 on DraftKings. And it's amazing how the pricing is done tonight because you have to scroll quite a bit to get to Brad Peacock on FanDuel. On DraftKings, he might be as high as like the 5th or 6th priced pitcher, which is just an insane thing to think about. But been pretty good. Biggest concern is his pitch count. I mean, he hasn't gone past 6 innings. In fact, in 2 outings, he hasn't gone past 4 2/3. But he's striking folks out. 8 strikeouts, 9 strikeouts. Looking up and down the list of pitchers today, there's really just not a lot to love in terms of strikeout upside. We'll get to the guys I like the most at the top. But, hey, if I can spend this kind of money on a guy who can go out there and spin 6 innings, get me 8 strikeouts, he's taking on a Kansas City or an LA Angels team that's a very interesting composition tonight because we have no Mike Trout, obviously, no Cameron Maybin, so they're relying on their stalwarts like Albert Pujols, and this is like 2017, not 2005, so we know that Pujols' skill set is diminished. He refuses to try to trade off power for average. This team doesn't strike out a lot, but Peacock seems to be putting up his strikeout totals regardless of the opponent. I mean, Detroit, Minnesota, Texas, those aren't necessarily all low strikeout teams. They're also not all high strikeout teams. So I think that he should be able to get it done tonight. The competition's pretty thin for him. I like the upside pitching in his home park tonight. All right, let's move up to Tanner Roark. He is 8,600 FanDuel. Don't have the DraftKings pricing in front of me. I do believe on DraftKings tonight he might be the second highest priced pitcher. I don't know where, I forget where Irvin Santana sits in there. But with Roark, you're looking at a guy who's been fairly solid. If you're looking through this slate of games, you're not going to find anyone who's been overly solid. I think you got some strikeout upside here. He's taking on a Texas Rangers team that frankly is not the same outside of their home ballpark. With this game being hosted in Washington, one might believe that Roark should hold a pretty decent shot at holding this team down. I think the strikeout upside is definitely there. He has posted, decent strikeout numbers. He's another guy. His highs have been 8 twice. So you're looking at a guy who could be an innings eater. He could get you 7 innings, 5 strikeouts. This is one of those things, though. If he's able to hold this lineup down and they don't score anything, this could be one of the guys that takes you to fantasy promised land tonight, because there's not a lot of guys I can build confidence in. Don't like Matt Shoemaker on the road against Houston. Never like Julio Teheran, especially against a lefty-heavy lineup in New York. Bundy's going to have his hands full with the Yankees, and we saw what they did to David Price yesterday. So, all things considered, there's just a lot not to like, really, tonight. But one thing I do love is going to be Corey Kluber against the White Sox. We saw Jake Odorizzi hold down the White Sox for the most part yesterday. Did give up a 3-run shot to Avisail Garcia, but outside of that, he posted an excellent outing. Almost 50, I think 49 fantasy points on FanDuel. At his price, that was great. I can only imagine what Kluber could do in this same situation. I like the fact that he looked very strong in his last outing. Put up 10 strikeouts. He's now done that twice this year. I think that the only thing you're really looking at here that could be somewhat problemsome is the innings pitched. Like, this White Sox lineup is one of the most frustrating lineups in all of baseball. It kind of reminds me of the Braves at the end of last season, where you look up and down the roster and you're just like, who the hell are these guys? But somehow, against good pitching, against all odds, they're putting up runs. They're destroyed left-handed pitching. You're just out of your mind at this point if you're putting left-handed pitching against the White Sox. Believe me, I learned that once too many times already. But Kluber, this is a guy I could see. He already went 9 innings, 9 strikeouts on this team this year. There's no reason he couldn't come close to 7 and 10. So he's, to me, above and beyond the best pitcher. Easily the cash game starter, especially on FanDuel, where his price just isn't even remotely close to where it should be. So once again, let's wrap it up. Brad Peacock, Tanner Roark, Corey Kluber, top tournament plays tonight. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Head over to researchfantasy.com. We are dumping a bunch of NFL season-long content in the next couple of weeks here. That's something we have a focus on. Stay tuned for some new additions to what we are offering. Like us on Facebook at Research Fantasy. Follow us on Twitter at Research and Win, and join us again tomorrow.